What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York calling from Zoom again, and this time we are here with Donald Tardy of the almighty Obituary. It is great for you to be here, man. Thanks for being here.
Alex, how you doing, bro?
Doing all right, man. How are you doing today? You guys
We're
absolutely slayed it last week, I must say.
awesome. We're having a blast on this tour. It's the weather's quite brutal. A couple of these towns, but it's the shows have been hot.
Yeah, you could
Even though the
you could
yeah,
you could say that again. You left the Hammerstein Ballroom into a smoldering crater. Thank you for spawning all the crowd service at that show because security tends to be a little strict there, and you just gave them a run for
yeah,
their money. So I appreciate it.
yeah, cool, right on. All the bands are just amazing on this tour. What a package! And the cool thing is everyone's such good friends. It
Yeah.
means that means a lot. We toured with Amon a decade ago, probably in Europe. So we've been longtime friends with those dudes. And Carcass, personally, for me, it's what a treat because it's one of my
Yeah.
favorite bands in the world.
Definitely. And, walking in, I was walking in during your set, and Visions in my head, which is to this day my favorite Obituary song because I was a late bloomer with you guys. To walk in at
Cool,
that time, it was like the ultimate. It was the
awesome.
ultimate introduction. But we got Dying of Everything coming out in 2023, giving us a lot to look forward to next year. Did you just consider this picking up where you left off after the self-titled record from 2017, or is this like a new beginning for Obituary in a way?
I don't know. It's a little bit of both. I mean, we are Obituary. We are not going to try and change much. We don't want to change our style. We know our fans are happy with what we give them, and we are happy in our own skin. So, we were extremely proud of the self-titled. It did very well with the fans' reactions and responses that we were getting with the album, and of course live, and it was a powerhouse. So we knew that we just wanted to keep pushing forward that direction. Again, it was just something we were happy with, and we only know one style. It's that meat and potatoes, mid tempo, groovy type death metal style that we have, and we really just focused on giving giving fans basically what we want to hear. That's how we write songs: is have fun with it and play the music that you're happy with, and your fans that love you are going to love the songs if you love them.
Definitely. I feel like, with Obituary too, you guys definitely bring a lot of the fun in death metal. Not to say that, the Cannibal Corpse and the Deicides and Morbid Angels aren't fun, but there's just something about, when you get into the riffs of Redneck Stomp or something like that, there's just the fun aspect. And that music video that you released from the 2017, that cartoon aspect, I mean, that's
Yeah,
the funniest metal cartoon since Metalocalypse.
yeah.
So I'll just say that right now.
Yeah, yeah. We're not afraid to have fun. I can't speak for Deicide and Cannibal Corpse or Morbid Angel, but
Yeah.
I don't see those dudes with white socks and sneakers and shorts on stage that like Obituary does,
Yeah.
and smiling as much as we do, and that's just a genuine thing. We have a good time in life. We have a good time together, and we definitely make it a point to have a good time on stage with the fans.
Yep, definitely. Evil music for good people. That's how I describe Obituary.
There you go.
Yep.
Good description.
Do you feel that with the title track, Dying of Everything, and The Wrong Time, those two singles that you released, do you feel like that is a good representation then of what Dying of Everything will sound like? Or is there maybe a little bit more, for lack of better words, like diversity, or maybe some are uncharted territory or surprises that we could be expecting?
No, I think it's a great taste of what they are in for when they get the new album. We're proud of this record. I'm super proud of every song on this album. I would have been happy to throw a dart at a dartboard, and any song would have been a great song to, or any song would be a song we'd be proud of. But those were more decisions of picking the first single, knowing what tour we were going to be on. If we were on a pure death metal tour only, we might have grabbed a single, a faster song. But we knew we were on tour with Amon Amarth, and those are fans that half of them probably have heard of the band Obituary or seen the logo before, but they probably don't own very many albums, if any, and they definitely probably have not seen us live before. So we wanted to choose The Wrong Time because it was that classic Obituary, that mid tempo, that groove to it. It's just kind of not too hard to listen to. It's easy. It's a feel good song, and we picked it for this tour. it's going very well with the fans' reactions online as well, which we're proud of that. And then, like you said, I mean, the Dying of Everything, the title track, we picked that one as well because we knew The Wrong Time was the classic Obituary. So the title track is one that Ken wrote with me, and Ken's background's way different than Trevor's. Me and Trevor are the main songwriters with my brother on the for Obituary songs, but Ken did write two of the songs on this record, and so we picked one of those it's different. It's a little got little more spice to it, a little bit different style than the typical Obituary, and that's why we chose that song.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned like too with your touring, because I feel like I've seen Obituary play with like a variety of different bands in the extreme genre. Like the first time I saw you was with Cannibal Corpse, which definitely get a bang for the death metal buck. But then I saw you with Creator, and then I saw you with Exodus, and then I saw you with Hatebreed. So have you noticed like and now with Amon Amarth, having the more like melodic death metal Viking style, have you noticed different audiences depending on the tour packages that you've been on?
You do. I mean, of course, that's one of those pick and choose things that we are proudly that we are able to do now. Obituary's got a pretty big name now, and there's packages and tours that come to us and ask us to be a part of it. And that's that's awesome. That's great that you have choice. But it seems like Obituary's always been that band, that death metal band, that can cross over and capture some audiences that maybe not necessarily like a Cannibal Corpse or a Morbid Angel is going to grab. I mean, I'm talking about back into the 90s where we went on tour with Agnostic Front in 1992, and who would have thought? And yet their fans felt that groove that Obituary had, and same thing with Madball, and same thing with Sick of It All, and those band members and Hatebreed, they love Obituary, and we're not the blast beat band, we're not the 1,000 miles an hour. My brother's voice is not just one tone; it's got range, it's got fucking appeal, and I think fans, non-death metal fans, whether they know they're gonna like it or not, or even some of them might not even want to like it. Here's a perfect example: 2 tours in a row, Zach and Black Label Society, invited us out in America, and that was a great challenge because it's what we're up for, is a challenge to get in front of new eyes, new fans, and anybody knows that a Black Label Society fan, they don't know who Obituary is. They have no idea. They know what Florida death metal is, and they know that they don't like it. So it was very funny, very killer, and very interesting to watch on that tour, walking into those venues knowing we're going to start the show, and those are people that simply in their mind say, I'm not going to like death metal, I'm not going to like this band, I don't want to like this band, and 4 songs into it you see them nodding their head, and by the end of the show, man, you got people clapping and coming up to the merch booth going, I've never heard of that band, and next time they come back in town, I'm going, because they were groovy and they were killer.
Yep, Black Label Society has always been good to death metal bands. I know that before the pandemic, they brought out Black Dahlia Murder, tribute to Trevor.
Yeah.
So like they really have always been good. And I think you get, not only do you bring newer fans on board, but I think you also get your fans into newer stuff as well.
Yeah, we do, and that's a good thing, and that is a cool thing to actually see young fans showing up to Obituary shows. 'Cause Lord knows we've been around how many years now? We've 33 years. Some of our is the release of the first album, something like this. So after 35 years of being a band, we know we have fans that are our age, but to now see fans coming in that are 20-year-old kids, that's amazing to see that there's this new generation of fans that weren't even born when like our 5th album was out, to be walking into these venues and actually knowing Obituary and wanting to learn Obituary and digging it. It's pretty cool seeing young people at these shows.
Yep. And speaking of which, actually, because I always like to ask anniversary questions, 2022 marked 30 years of The End Complete, which came out the year before I was born. World Demise was the first Obituary album that was around during my lifetime. But going back to The End Complete, what was the sort of mindset in 1992? compared to with songwriting or the live shows on a technical level? What was the sort of mindset in 1992? Because I feel like that was a great year for death metal with Cannibal Corpse putting out their material, DSI putting out their stuff. What was the sort of mindset of the Incomplete as opposed to now with Dying of Everything?
I think with the Incomplete, we now have become a band that realize we are a band, and people are paying attention, and the record label realizes that um, we are important, and we were still just honing the skills and learning ourselves, because it's one thing being in a garage and jamming and writing songs and coming up with an album and getting in a studio and recording the first record and going on tour a little bit, and the second album kind of went by just as quick as the first album. I don't really even remember much about the studio experience, but it was the Incomplete. It was by the third time we were actually in the studio that we knew we knew what we wanted. We were my brother and I especially were very hands on in the studio. Every millisecond of every song, it was my idea, my opinion, my say so when it came to the sound, the production, the the songs, just everything about it. So 92 was a good time. Still a learning process for the band, but we were becoming that powerhouse that we wanted to be. And it was just a good year. And yeah, the early 90s, when you couldn't ask for better death metal days, for
Yeah,
sure.
absolutely. I mean, just from the days of Symbolic to Focus, The Sound of Perseverance, Stench of Redemption, all of
Yeah.
that is just as classic as it
Yeah.
gets. For you as a drummer, because the technical excellence of Obituary is a force to be reckoned with, whether it will be in the vocal range or the riffs or in the drum works as well. Do you prefer to have music present before you start laying down your parts, or have you ever had a whole drum pattern written that maybe the band could write over?
No, obituaries just we've always written the same way. It's not probably the most typical way like bands do, especially nowadays. But we're just a couple guys in a room together. We get into the room together with open mind, open up a beer, and just jam and just see what happens. And if a riff comes out of Trevor, I usually immediately know that it's going to be a song, and especially drumming wise, I know immediately what I want to do, and it's pretty interesting that you can work on a song for a full month if you wanted to, but most of the time it's that initial idea that you have, meaning like the minute that we start writing a song, because we have like four rhythms now, and we say this is going to be a beginning, we can make this a bridge, and then my brother says, I think I'd like to sing on this part, so just do that and then go back to whatever and come back to this part. No matter what's going on there, usually the immediate initial idea I have on drums, it always sticks. Whether I try to get clever a week later, like let me try something different and maybe more technical and this and that, or it never. I always go right back to what my brain told me from the very get go. And usually it's the basic stuff. It's real basic. Obituary. We're not reinventing the wheel. It's just usually solid, confident, and clean. And that's kind of what my drumming is.
Mhm. Well, it's funny you mention that too because I was having this discussion with Justin Foley of Kill Switch Engage, and a lot of people assume because drums don't have melody in it that it lacks emotions. But I've watched you play plenty of times, and I'm seeing a lot of catharsis and a lot of energy channeled into that. Do you channel a specific emotion or some sort of specific meaning within your into your craft, or being that it is such an organic process, you don't really need to confront anything with it, it is just kind of like a pure escapism?
Yeah, I mean, I've been a drummer since 7 years old. It's just in my blood. I just always worshipped music, but mainly drums. So you do not need to give me much to get excited when I get behind a drum kit. So for a live show, yeah, you don't. I need no help getting excited and pumped up for my drum performance. So that's just one of those things that what's more fun in life, being behind a drum kit, being able to perform for fans that love your music. That's what I live for. And then Obituaries, it's my baby. This thing has been mine since I was 14 years old. So I don't know anything any better than what I do with Obituary. I'm really good at one thing, and that's drumming and being the creator and one of the main creators for Obituary and Obituary's music, and that comes natural and it comes very easy for us.
Hmm. And I usually like to avoid asking this question, but for you in particular, I was always wondering, it's kind of cliche to ask what your influences are. But when I watch you play, I see techniques of Neil Peart, I see techniques of Sean Reinhart, I see techniques of every genre of music in a way. Was there a specific drummer that made you want to pick up a pair of sticks in a way?
Well, yeah, it doesn't. I mean, and it goes back to when I said I was already beating on everything in the house by the age of 7, and learning snare drum by the age of 8 and 9. So, that's, you're talking in the 70s. So for me, there was not death metal, there was not heavy metal even yet in my life. I have a brother that's older than myself and John, who his album collection is the reason why I'm such a fan of music. But that was in Florida, and that was Southern rock. That was Leonard Skinner, Outlaws, Molly Hatchet, Ted Nugent. Those were like the beginnings of really understanding like rock and just good music and killer guitar solos and drummers that are holding down beats. But to answer the question specifically, of course, John Bonham. The minute I heard Led Zeppelin, I said, "This is the coolest shit I've ever heard." This guy on drums, he makes it so simple to play something so solid, and he wasn't doing shit all the time too technical. He could do a million things technically, but he also kept shit basic for Led Zeppelin's music in general. And then the main influence for me, man, was when Vinny Appice entered my life at a young age with Ronnie James Dio. I remember the Holy Diver album, and it's still today the album that I warm up to before every show. It's just one of those things where I put myself in the back lounge of the bus, and I blast Holy Diver, and I warm my body up, and then I play to probably 5 or 6 of those songs, air drumming, just to warm my body up to it. But Vinny Appice is my main influence for sure.
One of the first interviews we've ever done on this show as well. So
awesome.
Yep. And the final question I wanted to ask you is, and I've asked a lot of bands this, was the legacy of the Tampa, Florida death metal scene. I know people who are literally traveling to Tampa, Florida right now, just bringing their Obituary and Morbid Angel shirts just for the sake, the same reason why people want to go to Sweden, people go to Tampa, Florida. Yeah. Was it maybe easier to start a band of your style down there because there was such like a community in a way? And kind of how did it cultivate? Like, it's just has a legacy at this point of like New York hardcore, for example.
Yeah, well, those people that are headed to Tampa just to go like witness the scene that was Tampa death metal, they're in for a horrible they're in for a horrible ending. It's just Florida. It's just flat, dry, mosquito-ridden old people land.
That's pretty that's pretty metal. They call it God's waiting room for a reason.
Yeah, it's pretty metal, but all seriousness, I don't know. I can't say whether it would have been or would have not been easier in the Tampa scene. I was so young that I didn't even know what was going on around us, really. It wasn't like soaking in like, oh my God, we're a part of something so incredible. We were just young dudes that were so driven. We were trying to find our style amongst these other bands, many bands that were making their names for it. But before Chuck and before us and before Morbid and before Deicide, there was Nasty Savage and there was Sabotage, and they were right in our neighborhood. And that was really the beginning for me. That was the birth of metal in Tampa, and they played a part in our DNA and in our bloodline of having metal in our veins more than any death metal. That was when we were still riding bicycles as children, going and watching them through the windows of their garages practicing, and that goes a million miles. That takes a long. It's a long way of learning from those dudes. So, it was amazing. It's a lot of it. I personally think it's pure coincidence that in Central Florida, those 4 to 5 death metal bands were making a really big stink compared to whatever else was going on in the rest of the world with Europe or West Coast of the United States. But a lot of people, when they asked that question, so many people are like waiting for like, oh yeah, it was in the swamp water. We would sift alligator urine and pass it around. But it's just a coincidence. Maybe the competition, maybe the competition was there, because if you ever watched Chuck and Death live, you knew that you better be pretty good live or you're going to get smoked. And I think maybe that's a little bit, maybe simply competition and knowing how many good bands were right around your town might have helped us to focus a little bit more and become a little bit better. But we were determined, man. I don't care if we were in Boise, Idaho. I think we would have been, if it was me and Trevor meeting in 1981 at 11 years old. If we would have met somewhere else, I think we still would have had this drive that was metal. And thank God it was in Brandon in Tampa, Florida, where Nasty Savage and Sabotage showed us the light from an early age. And the rest is history.
Definitely. And people think that Tampa, Florida, or Sweden is like the only places. I mean, we are the home of immolation, mortician, suffocation.
Right.
So, like, we got plenty
Right.
of death metal right here. But
Yeah, man.
before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time today. Oh, and Cannibal Corpse, can't forget that. Buffalo, but not New York City.
Yeah, exactly.
But before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time today and for such an awesome chat. Is there just anything else with the release of Dying of Everything that you would like to promote for the Obituary Camp? This will be uploaded by midnight tonight, so anything not yet announced, don't say it here.
Yeah, and you know we've waited a long time. We've been sitting on this album that's been finished for nearly 2 years now, but the pandemic obviously put everybody on hold. So we are extremely eager to get this thing out and get it into the fans' hands. And we're going to push hard. And everyone I know around the United States that missed this tour and people that are going to be seeing this and wondering where the tours are coming, we're going to stay super busy for many, many, many tours with this album, because we could not be more proud of the songs on this record and the production of it, and just simply the way it came out. It's been a long time coming, and we are a live band. We're the band that stays on tour. We're the band that it is very comfortable on stage, and we know that we slay on stage. And so we're gonna make it a point to stay out for quite some time to promote this album.
Hell yeah. Well, thank you so much, everybody. We are here with Obituary, Dying of Everything, coming in 2023. We'll see you next time on Heavy New York.